Hi, I'm Laura Beth Wells, and we're here with Theater Thursdays at the CBT. We've got Kathleen Conlin with us today.
Hey, Laura Beth, it's good to see you.
I'm Laura Beth Wells, a graduate of the University of Tennessee Theater Program, and also currently a lecturer and professional actor with the Clarence Brown Theater Company. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge I am speaking to you today from Knoxville, Tennessee, the native lands of the Ute and Muscogee people, as well as the Cherokee Nations. And I'd like to acknowledge the indigenous stewards of this land, both past and present. And for the whole month of December, we're going to be talking about A Christmas Carol. And today we are speaking with the director of the present production of A Christmas Carol, Kathleen Conlin. Kathleen, where are you coming to us from today?
Well, I'm delighted to be in Austin, Texas, which is my home. And it's a real thrill to be here and talking with you and reliving some of our memories of A Christmas Carol. I'm missing my 5th year in directing it.
I know. We had one of the things the last 3 years. I've been in Christmas Carol the last 3 years with Kathleen, and the first time I was in it actually was in 1986, and the first production I think that they did with the rotating set and the big Victorian thing that they had. So this. You've been with the production for 4 seasons. And as the director of A Christmas Carol, you are responsible for the vision of what it looks like, taking it from the page to the stage. And when you approach it, how do you do that? What are the themes? What is it about Christmas Carol that you want to bring forth from the story we all know?
Well, it gets more complicated, oddly enough, every year I do it. I find that there are more things that I think about. And that makes it exciting, but sometimes a feeling of being overwhelmed by how much there is deep in it. And I really start with, if I can flash this up, I actually start with the novel. And I read through that several times as I'm going back through the script. The script, of course, is a theatrical version of it. There are umpteen zillion copies of those all across the world. But the Morgan translation or adaptation that we're using is fantastic. And so that I then allow what I remember of the novel, because I do put it aside, let that go away, and then I concentrate on the script. And in concentrating on the script, I look for what seemed to be the most emotional, the most human aspects of the story. And I think that essentially what I'm looking at are how the Victorian period, which is the period in which Charles Dickens was writing, how that period is similar to ours in many ways, and we don't usually think about that. I look at the class differences that are set up in the storyline itself, from the mercantile class to the extraordinary poverty. I look at the way the story is shaped artistically in the adaptation, in the sense of what are small dramatic scenes, what are larger group scenes, and I try to find what the kinetic, and by kinetic I mean what is the movement quality of telling the story, from small scenes to bigger scenes to collapse into small scenes again. What does that do to us as we engage the story? And I think also then is the biggest story of all, which is the whole notion of taking somebody's journey, Scrooge, taking his journey from a cold, hard-hearted, closed fist, demanding, data-driven individual into someone who realizes that the heart can be broken, the heart can be fortified, it can also break open again and open up again so that there is warmth and humanity and a concern for others other than self. And so it's that whole process that fits into the storytelling.
So as you're going through and you're finding these themes, then how does that translate into what the production looks like? How do you talk about these with the designers?
Well, I think that one of the first things is the image that I couldn't get over as I worked through the novel and in the script itself is how important that sense of time is. It's interesting that the story is all the key scenes take place at Christmas. It's always Christmas. It's always Christmas. But which Christmas? Which one? It's always Christmas. So there's a sense almost like Groundhog Day. It's just always there. But it's also that sense that time is limited, at the same time it's expansive. And it's limited for Scrooge because Marley makes it very clear to him, you will only have so much time to deal with these visitors that I'm going to send upon you. So that notion of time was critical for us. And I said to the scene designer, I said, I'm not a designer. I don't know how this is going to work, but I've got to have a sense of time overwhelming us visually in the design itself. And in addition to that, I said, it's really important. I've got 31 people, and somehow the image of time and the fact that I've got to move people through and around, I think we need some kind of figure 8 shape. What that meant, I had no idea. But that was one of the critical things.
Yeah, and I think that for those who have seen the production that you do, that I think all of those things come through. The humanity of those moments. It's, there are very, like you said, like the small moments, but they're so intimate and they're so human, and we connect to them as an audience and as a company as well. So of course, with the particular production at Clarence Brown, it is the same script, it is the same production, but you have a different cast every year, or half a different cast, or 3/4 of a different cast. What are the specific challenges of doing this particular production at Clarence Brown that you've encountered over the course of your tenure?
Okay, there are lots of challenges within that. Let's just deal with the story and the fact that we don't have the same cast every year. We have mostly the same cast, but not all the same cast. And just changing one person in this makes a big difference. So it's an interesting kind of process where we go from the fact that we are trying to replicate it as it has existed, at least in the mechanics of it, so that the sense of people will probably be moving in the same ways on the set, that entrances will be approximately the same, the basic idea stands the same, but I'll tell you what's different. Two things in particular. One is that individual actors bring their own personality to the role. No matter how carefully they're playing the role as written, there's just something in the way somebody looks, there's something in the way they sound, there's an energy in the way they connect to the other actor, and that brings another shading to the story. And what I try to do as a director, even when I'm staging it for the first time, is to watch the actors, like say, I watch you hard. I really watch you a hard way. And I watch to see, what is it that this actor gravitates toward? What is it that this actor brings to this that maybe we can build on and get just another shading to the story because of that? And that keeps me interested, but it also makes sure that the actor's work in the character is authentic, as opposed to just pretending to be whoever it was before.
Well, I not to interrupt, but I remember we had last year, and with Dilber, because I was recovering from a broken leg, and I couldn't be as physical as I had been when we first staged the scene. And I remember there was the one bit towards the end where I used to come out and try and beat Scrooge, right? But it didn't feel, I remember we talked about it. And even with the same actor, we talked about it. Yep. We were 3 years on and we're like,
can't do it.
We're not in the same space anymore. This doesn't work anymore. And as an actor, like, that was a beautiful moment for me, because I knew it wasn't right, but it was what we had done, and to have that conversation. I mean, I think I have to fangirl for a minute, because I do love you as a director. You're one of my favorites, because we have those conversations and we were able to come back to it and say, what is it now? It was that then, but what is it now, so that it's still truthful.
Exactly. And that plays out more explicitly, I think. It's subtle with the professionals in the cast, but it's with the children. The children have almost always changed. I mean, we've had maybe 3 or 4 that actually did more than 2 years, but the casting of the children changes quite a bit. So I never quite know how that family is going to gel. And so I have to really watch them very carefully early in rehearsal, not watch them in the sense of some sort of punitive authoritarian thing. I don't mean that, but watch them to say, oh, this is what this little kid does. I get it. Okay. This one is the Joker. This one is that. And somehow then build that little family around what those individual kids are able to bring to it.
Yeah. Because then they're going to give their best performance.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you talk about, making sure mechanically it's the same from year to year, how do you do that? What is the process? I've heard tale of a book, of a chart.
A chart. There is a chart. And the chart is now, let's see, we're at 4 pages, single spaced. Essentially what we chart down is actors' names on one side with all the roles that they play, page numbers across so that we mark out who's in every single page of the script. And then we have titles above that so we know what section of the storytelling that is. And that helps me early on in my discussions with designers and a stage manager and whatever, and helps me to then stage the work. Mm-hmm. Because of the chart, we then know when we have to put somebody in, we know exactly where they have to appear in the telling of the story. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of where they literally are on the stage, that's a combination of what I prepped going into rehearsal and then what the stage manager, Patrick, was able to record them doing. So that's how we keep track of that. And then we've also been using video. Video of the previous production so we can at least see, even if we can't see it in great detail, we can see just enough to go, oh, that's right. Okay, that's where that movement happens. And we move them across the set in that way. But that chart is absolutely critical because it's not just a mechanical thing for the way I use it in the early staging rehearsals. It's the chart that also, by a quick glance down at it, I can see what my rhythm of the play is going to be. Because I can see immediately, oh, wow, that's got 21 people in that scene. And then suddenly I'm down to 2 people in a scene. And then in 3 pages, I'm opening up into a middle scene. Mm-hmm. That starts to give me movement potential for the way that I then move through the script.
That's great. Yeah. And I know that watching has been, even as someone who has done it multiple years in a row, when we have those first and we watch it, because when we're in the rehearsal hall, for those of you watching who want to know more about the process, we start our rehearsals in a flat space over in A&B, over by the stadium. And our wonderful stage management team, headed by Patrick, who we'll talk to next week, they tape out the entire set for us, but it's flat. But this set, if you've seen the production, is very elevated. And so that's a component where the video really helps as the actor to be able to look at it and see, oh, I'm going to be 6 feet above this person that's in front of me, that, and you get that sense. And that's an invaluable tool. And it's always nostalgic to look back at. And I think also too, for the people who are new to the show, it's I love to see them. They're like, oh, that's going to be me. That's right.
Exactly.
And then they start to get excited. And so speaking about, we all have these wonderful memories. I mean, I have beautiful memories of Christmas Carol, both as being in it as a child, and then these last 3 years where I've been fortunate to do that. What are some of your favorite memories from your time with A Christmas Carol at Clarence Brown?
So many, most of them in production, but there was one rehearsal moment that I don't think I will ever get over, which was in our last year, year 3. Mm-hmm. And it was a Sunday, it was either a Saturday or Sunday rehearsal where we have the big 6-hour block because mostly everybody is available then. But we, for some reason, had several people gone in that rehearsal, and we had to move through from one scene to the next, to the next, to the next. And the assistant to the director, Ethan Rader, got up and literally ran in every time there was an actor missing and played the scene not only exactly as just the narrative was functioning, but also the rhythm of that particular actor who was playing the role, the intonation. It was remarkable. And by the time that rehearsal was over, we literally all just broke out into applause because it was a tour de force.
It really was. I remember that rehearsal. It was fantastic. And you're right. Like it was a tour de force. Like it was, you got to be and I was like, you should write your own, like, one person version of this. It'd be fantastic.
Because you're ready to go. But what was so wonderful about that is not just that he was technically able to do that, but it was the fact that what it demonstrated was his devotion to the story and his devotion to the production, that he knew it so well without making a joke of it or whatever. He went in very seriously and did it. And that was a sign of respect, which I thought was just remarkable.
Yeah, because it is an important story, and it's a story, I think, that every time it gets told touches one more person.
Absolutely.
It's been wonderful to talk to you today, Kathleen.
I loved it. Thank you so much. All best to you.
All best to you. And thank you for joining us for Theater Thursdays. Next week, we'll be here with Patrick, who is the stage manager for Christmas Carol, and we'll be learning more about this infamous chart and how we keep it all together. Thanks for joining us. Bye.